here at TVA, we have to do certain environmental studies, how does it impact the communities. And so we want you to learn about that process, learn about the alternatives that we consider, give you this one-on-one opportunity, learn more about it, and then most importantly, we want you to provide some comments and feedback to us. Whether you like it, whether you hate it, let us know. So I mentioned, what is the NEPA Act? It was established in 1970. We follow the requirements of NEPA, so all the federal codes on that. But environmental stewardship is an important aspect and one of the core missions of TVA, because back when TVA was founded. And we take this seriously. We want to be good stewards. So throughout this process, we want to look at a site that can minimize impacts to the community and minimize impacts in the environment, but maximize what's the potential benefits of the community. And I think that's something we really worked well on determining our preferred alternative tonight. So what is required? So as part of the NEPA, what you'll find, if you won't see the entire document, it's online. We'll also have a hard copy available up at Town Hall for people to look at after tonight. It's a document about 300 pages long, but it'll go into every aspect of the layman's terms, I call it bugs, buddies, bones, and bats. We've looked at everything from threatened and endangered species, to cultural impacts, social economic impacts, the geologic, aquatic impacts, so anything to do with the environment, we looked at. We call bats, studied bats. That was a fun process as well. So we looked at a lot of environmental impacts when we're making these decisions. But also in that document is what's called the need for action. So one of the questions a lot of people ask is, why do we need to build another facility? Why do we need to build another pump storage facility? So that's also contained within that document, and it contains every alternative that we consider in it as well. So you get some really detailed information inside that document. Encourage you to take a look at it. There is an executive summary on it. Or if you really want some good information on it, we are tonight's just going to become a high-level overview of it. So we were here, as I mentioned, 2 years ago. So where does this put us in the process? So we announced 2 years ago that we were conducting a study for a pump storage. Showed you that Sand Mountain, Alabama was under consideration for that. So since that time, it's taken us about 2 years to conduct those studies. So in the process, we've just published this draft environmental impact statement document. So when I was mentioning, it was online, and we're here for a window, a 45-day window period that will allow you to provide public comment for us. And then after that, we'll look at making the final decision at that point, after we receive everybody's comments at that point. So what's pump storage? That's a good question. So this is actually an illustration of a pump storage facility that TVA already owns. It's called Raccoon Mountain, located just outside of Chattanooga, built in the 1970s. Hopefully, there's probably some folks in the crowd that may have worked on Raccoon Mountain, and maybe even some folks that know their parents or others have worked on Raccoon Mountain as well. So it's an amazing facility to visit, but what is it? Essentially, the best way to describe it, it's a large water battery. What it does is when we've got excess power on the grid, we use those turbines to pump water from the lower reservoir. In this case, we're studying would be Lake Reservoir. And we pump it up here to a higher elevation, here being Sand Mountain. And then when power goes up in demand, we just reverse the flow, let it fall back through the turbines and make power for those peaking times. And this becomes particularly important when it's very hot, very cold. So a quick illustration of how it works. Everybody loves a picture or a video. So it just kind of illustrates that we've got excess power. We're going to use it to pump up and release it. When you come home and it's hot outside, you turn that air conditioner on, that power man starts going way up real fast. So this is a very quick way, very efficient way to be able to meet those peak demands. As a disclaimer, this is an illustration. If we built this like Gunnersville, it's not going to go up and down. It won't do that. It'll go down maybe half an inch right around the area, so it won't have any impact on those. So one of the questions that I've been asked, I kind of wanted to address tonight, and if you've got more information or got detailed questions about this slide, please see us after us. But a lot of it is a little bit on the daily energy cycle of the need. So what you see here is actually a chart from the past week of power usage inside of TVA. And if you look, every day that power goes up and down, every day. So as you're at night, early in the morning, not a lot of industrial running, you're not running your air as much, most people are sleeping, power demand drops. During the day, particularly starting around noon and afterward, power demand starts going up. So a storage facility is very vital in being able to balance those loads or that load on the grid. So at night, there's only certain types of generation that can follow that load. That being natural gas is one, or hydro facilities is one. But baseload generation, such as nuclear or baseload gas or coal, they like to run flat. They like to stay on. You can't really turn those off. So if the folks out there stop utilizing as much power and we have too much on the grid, that can destabilize the grid. So a pump storage facility allows us to use that, store it, shift it to a time so we can allow those very efficient base load systems to run. So that's really what I wanted to be able to show you on that slide. Is we use this to be able to follow that curve. Also, with intermittent renewables as well, those are non-dispatchable, we call it. So when they're on, they're on. When they're off, they're off. So it allows us to be able to balance that and keep the grid stable. So you'll find this statement here within the draft EIS. And this is what we call our purpose of need, and it just gives us a description of why we need it. And what we know is pump storage hydro is what we call long duration energy storage. And it's going to assist us with this load balancing. It's going to allow us to run base load power, which is the cheaper power that we would make. Allow us to run it more. It allows us to balance that energy. And with the new technology that we're looking at, will allow us to balance as we bring additional renewables on the grid as well. So it's what I like to refer as pump storage is the Swiss Army knife of the grid. No matter what the grid of the future looks like, it's a key to allow us to be able to manage and operate that grid. So what's some of the benefits? Are rates. So if you need long storage energy storage, pump storage is one of the oldest, most mature technologies out there. We've had Raccoon Mountain since the 70s. It's a workhorse of TVA. So being it's a mature option, it's one of the lower cost ways to store energy that we have. It's very reliable. You know, if you've been in it, people that sing Raccoon Mountain, it's built into the mountain. Hit it with a hurricane, get it with a tornado, try to freeze it. You know, if it's hot, it's going to work. It's reliable. So they're very reliable ways to store energy as well. It can also bring a lot of job opportunities to the area. We'll go into a little bit of that more as well. And it's a really low impact way to store energy as well. So it's really an earthen or a rock fill structure with some water built into the rock. So not many critical minerals that we would consider that. So mentioned Raccoon Mountain many times. Why would we be interested in another one? We know how to run pump storage, but it works. It's a very reliable system. If you ask some of our grid operators, and they'd like to have 5. But let's work on one first right now. All right, so what all have we looked at? When we were here 2 years ago, we had 3 options that we looked at. We were looking at an expansion of Raccoon Mountain. Can we go up there and just add a few or new units to that one? Can we look at we're looking at the Fabius area, Flat Rock area. There's some folks here tonight from the Flat Rock area, and then also the Pisgah area. So when we identified this need and started it 2 years ago, we started with 60 sites all across the valley. And then we trimmed it down to 15, and then we eventually got down to these 3 sites based on the geology, the number of people we would impact, and also the topography and what we can do to maximize the economics as well. So inside the draft EIS, you'll find these 4 options. One is do nothing, so no action. So we wouldn't add additional pump storage to the fleet. But But you'll find the preferred option we're going to talk about tonight is the Rorex Creek site located here in Hillsdale area. But you're also going to find the Willis Creek site. So if you're from the Flat Rock area, you know we were doing some environmental studies up that way, but we utilize that data that we receive, look at the environmental impacts, look at the social economic impacts, how it will be impacting people, and that weighed in on selecting which one is our preferred alternative. So we ruled that one as a non-preferred alternative, so you can weigh in on that. We looked at the expansion of Raccoon Mountain, where we put a new powerhouse on it. But a good way to describe that one is it just allows us to discharge and charge that battery faster. It's like putting an additional charger on the battery. Charge it up faster, you can discharge it faster. But it doesn't increase the size of the battery. It's still the same size battery. So a brand new facility would actually add a very large battery to the fleet instead of just the additional way to charge it and discharge it faster. So that leads us a lot towards our preferred alternative here at Pisgah, Rorex Creek area. So let's review this alternative. So a few items of note first. We have not decided to build or not to build. This is just the next step in the process. This is to allow the community to provide input on whether they think about the project, whether they support it. Give us feedback about what you would like to see. But this is an announcement. This is not an announcement that we're building the project. That's one message I want you to go home with tonight. This is just the next step in the process. Another one I'd like to address, and you'll see in the illustrations, we're not building a dam across Jones's Creek. We're not damming up the gorge, and we're not damming up Rorex Creek. So I know that was some rumors that got out on social media pretty quick. So we're not building dams across those creeks. And I want you to know also that what you're going to see next, these renderings, are exactly what they are. They're not final designs at this point. These are showing you what can be, gives you a great idea what the facility would look like. So I want to preface it with that. And one thing is a last local note. One more local note, King Dog. We have not bought the Family Dollar. We have not bought the Family Dollar. Spread the word. We have not bought the Family Dollar. We did not shut the Family Dollar down. So, spread the word on that. Help me out. All right. So here is an introduction to what we call the Rorex Creek pump storage hydro facility. So as you can see, for orientation-wise, Bellefonte is located to my right. I have to pay attention to that. So Bellefonte will be to my right. This will be straight across. For the locals, it's familiar. Where you see the lower IO and that bridge, that's about where Sudlett's Ferry sticks out into the river. So that gives you an orientation of where you're at. That road going up the side of the mountain is about the old Sudlett's Ferry Road. Is where it would go. So the construction would consist of a ring dike around the top of the mountain. It would create a reservoir of about 400 acres in size. Most of the facility will be underground. Along the reservoir area, we have to reclaim some of our work area. We've got a built-in workspace. So we would look at reclaiming that for public benefit. Very similar to what I would call old school TVA. We develop some recreational areas, invite the public in around the powerhouse or around the plant area and really show it off. So a lot of people's asking why we call it Rorex Creek. It's just a tip of a hat back to the old original TVA engineers. They would name it to the nearest water body. So that's how we come up with the name. So another view. So this would be looking back towards Bellefonte from the 88 area there. So you can get another perspective of it. All right, this is what a cutaway of it would look like. So most of the work here at the power plant would be underground. We would be creating a significant tunnels and significant cavern underground. So the powerhouse and the generators for the power we made is underground. So this site, once operational, is very quiet. The only thing you would see daily is a reservoir on top, just go up and down. That's how, once at the end, that's about all you would see. There's a reservoir just up and down every day on top. So most of the work would occur around the bottom of the mountain once the upper reservoir is built. So if a picture is worth, here's an idea, forgot about this slide. This is an idea of how we might reclaim the bottom area for public benefit. This is not a design drawing. This was just, hey, I handed it to a landscape architect, say, give me an idea. What we would do, we would want to work with community leadership to see what type of facilities that we could establish back for the public benefit there. All right, so if a picture's worth 1,000 words, a video is worth 1,000,000 words. So while I get a drink, I want to let you take a look at that. All right, so pretty neat artistic illustration of what the project could be. And think about that every time you tell your kids to get off video games, they actually might can create something pretty neat. So really appreciate the effort that some of our animation folks went into developing that. So it really allows us to really make it digestible real quick, right? So let's talk about a little bit of the considerations for the bird alternative. What's some of the local and regional benefits for the project? So as I mentioned earlier, we spoke actually last time 2 years ago. A project like this could bring in about 1,000 temporary construction jobs. We've made about 60 permanent jobs afterward. One thing we do estimate is in the northeast Alabama area, a project like this could bring in about $700 million in the local economy, and then provide another $700 million over the next 20 years of operation for the area as well. We bring some local infrastructure improvements, like obviously you can see from the video of the big bridge across there, right? And also, as I mentioned earlier, we work with community planners to incorporate recreational opportunities, increase those recreational opportunities in the area. So if you've been to Raccoon Mountain, hiking, biking, camping, picnic areas, those are just some of the ideas that we can have. Trails, habitat improvements, improved river access for the community as well. And all those could be very positive economic drivers. I know if there's anybody here that's in the, say, the mountain biking and hiking crowd, organization called SORBA out of Hamilton County, they really emphasize the biking opportunities around Raccoon Mountain. It's a significant economic driver. You know, their website estimates that it brings in about $4 million a year just in those kind of opportunities to the Hamilton County area. So those will be big benefits to the area for a facility like this. So what's the timing? Where are we at with this thing? So we're completing the NEPA process, and that's where we're at right now, this 2025 time period. So as I mentioned a minute ago, we've not made a decision. So the question is, when would you make a decision? So over the next 1 to 2 years, we're going to anticipate making a decision of whether to move forward. Still in guidance with what we discussed about 2 years ago that timing process for us. So next question I always get, well, how long is it going to take before we get it built at that time? So we're currently here June 25, finishing out near the planning phase, publishing the final draft, or the final EIS is the next step. It would take us about a continued 2-year design period at that point. And then we anticipate construction ranging from about 6 to 8 years at that point afterward. And this is just examples, not an official schedule, but it's a high level of anticipation. All right, so that's the preferred alternative presentation. So what would we like? What would we like from you? So if you'd like to get more questions from us, give me about 5 minutes here. We're going to staff these tables down through here. So project information, we're going to have people here for TVA. You can interact with, ask all your questions, any more information, details if you want, in-depth questions, anything you'd like. We'll have staff to help you. If you got questions about the NEPA process, any of the environmental compliance sections, please get your questions answered. All these tables will be staffed for us here. One thing I'd like for you to know and make sure, if you got comments, let's get them made official, get them in the record. And how you do that tonight is if you'll see these folks over here at these 2 round tables, we've got comments cards for you. If you don't like to write comment cards, kind of like me, there will be some QR codes that lead to our website. You can take a snap of that QR code, and it will lead you to the comment form so you can get those in the official record. Remember, only comments that are submitted through either handwritten or through the website will go into the record. So let's get your comments in the official record. So please remember that. All right. So with that concludes the presentation side of this. We certainly want to welcome you to discuss with the staff. Again, I want to say, if you don't stick around, thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for observing the presentation. Thank you for showing our staff a great physical welcome. So I really appreciate that, and we really look forward to being able to talk and interact with everybody. So thank you for that, and look forward to in-depth discussion.
It showed us that you can. So I'm just saying, would be